Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom, Elf Submarine. The wise old elf has some exciting news. The elves in the elf factory have made a new toy. May I present the elf submarine, he says proudly.
Wow!
Does it float? asks King Thistle. The wise old elf frowns. Of course the elf submarine floats. We carefully chose this day to test the submarine, he replies, because there are no other boats on the lake. Suddenly Ben Elf spots a boat on the lake. It's Redbeard, he cries. The elf pirate. Ben is right. Redbeard is sailing towards him in his pirate ship. Should the ship be leaning like that? Wonders Princess Holly. No, says Nanny Plum. It is loaded up with too much treasure. Curses! Bellows Redbeard, jumping off the side. The ship and the treasure sink down to the bottom of the lake. Ben and Holly feel very sorry for Mr. Redbeard. Me treasure! He cries. How will I get it back again? If only we had some way of sailing underwater to look for it, sighs King Thistle. Ben looks at the elf submarine. It is just the thing for rescuing pirate treasure.
Wow!
Captain Redbeard, says King Thistle, our submarine is at your service.
Hooray!
I'll be needing a crew, says Redbeard. Mr. Elf, Nanny Plum, Ben and Holly all climb aboard. The elf submarine sets sail. Mr. Elf, bellows Redbeard, steer the submarine. Aye, aye, says Mr. Elf. Ben and Holly, adds Redbeard, wind up the engine. Aye, aye, say Ben and Holly. What shall I do? Wonders Nanny Plum. Redbeard grins. You just sit there and look pretty, me little mermaid. Ugh, says Nanny Plum. Mr. Elf has a tale to tell as he steers the submarine. I used to be a sailor, he sighs, but I'm not any more. Why not? asks Redbeard. Mr. Elf's voice is just a whisper. Big Bad Barry. Big Bad Barry is the biggest, most giganticest fish the world has ever seen.
Wow!
He's eaten 9 of Dad's boats, explains Ben. Redbeard gasps. Big Bad Barry sounds very bad indeed. The elf submarine dives down to the bottom of the lake. It's so pretty, cries Holly. Ben looks through the porthole. Suddenly he sees it. Redbeard's boat. A shadow falls over the submarine. It must be a big underwater cloud, decides Ben. Captain Redbeard shakes his head. You don't get clouds underwater. Shiver me timbers, he cries. It's a fish! Mr. Elf turns pale. It's not a cloud, and it's not just a fish. It's Big Bad Barry. He's swimming towards Redbeard's boat, cries Holly. No, thunders Redbeard. Me treasure! Oh no! Too late. Big Bad Barry swallows the ship whole, just like it was a grape. Nanny Plum walks in with a tray of tea. What a shame, she sighs. Shall we go home then? Before Mr. Elf can drive the submarine home, it goes all dark. Where are we? asks Holly. I'll shave me beard off if there's not something fishy going on, says Redbeard. Turn on the lights, Mr. Elf. The crew spots Redbeard's ship and all of Mr. Elf's old boats too.
Wow!
We must be inside Big Bad Barry, says Ben. Ben is right. The elf submarine is inside the belly of a big fish.
Oh no!
How are we going to get out? Asks Holly. If we could get Big Bad Barry to open his mouth, we could just sail out, says Ben. How do we do that? Groans Mr. Elf. Nanny Plum decides to phone the wise old elf for a bit of advice. Someone needs to talk to the fish, says the wise old elf. Nanny Plum smiles. I can speak fish.
Wow!
Good, replies the wise old elf. Tell Big Bad Barry a joke to make him laugh. Everybody climbs back into the elf submarine. Nanny Plum tries to think of a good fish joke. I know, she says. A deep rumble shakes the elf submarine. Big Bad Barry is starting to chuckle. I think he liked the joke, whispers Nanny Plum.
Hooray!
Big Bad Barry laughs so hard he spits out the elf submarine. Full steam ahead, roars Redbeard. The elf submarine floats up to the surface. We did it, shouts Ben, opening the lid and climbing out. Hooray, cheer King and Queen Thistle. It's a shame that the treasure's lost, says wise old elf. It's not lost, replies Redbeard. I know where it is. The captain flashes a piratey grin. No one will ever find his treasure in the belly of Big Bad Barry. See you soon! Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom. Trip to the seaside. Princess Holly and the elf family are driving to the seaside. I could try magicking us there, says Holly. No thanks, Holly, replies Mr. Elf. This is an elf day trip, and elves don't do magic. At the beach, Princess Holly says, I love picnic baskets. They magic up whatever you want to eat. But this is an elf picnic, Ben reminds her. Mr. Elf opens the basket. Oh dear, we forgot to bring the picnic, he cries. As this is an emergency, says Mr. Elf, perhaps we could use magic after all. I will try an ice cream spell, said Princess Holly.
Wow!
Abracadabra ice cream! 4 delicious ice creams appear. Thank you, Holly, says Mr. Elf.
Hooray!
Now let's make sandcastles, cries Ben. Can we build one big enough for us to go inside? Asked Princess Holly excitedly. We'd need a huge bucket to build a castle that big, replies Mr. Elf. Like that one? Asked Ben. It must have been left here by big children, says Mr. Elf. Let's build a sandcastle for Holly to thank her for our lunch.
Hooray!
The elf family love to make things, and they love to sing too. Heave ho, dig ho, dig dig ho, dig 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 dig, heave ho, over you go, over you go. I'm Queen Holly, giggles Holly from the top of the sandcastle. And I'm King Ben, adds Ben Elf. Mr. and Mrs. Elf tidy everything away, and they find Princess Holly's wand lying in the sand. The tide is coming in, and soon Ben and Holly are stranded out at sea. The wind is too strong for me to fly, calls Princess Holly. Use your wand to do some magic, Mrs. Elf shouts to Holly, and she throws it to Ben. Quick as a flash, Ben catches the wand and Holly casts a spell. Sun, sea and sand, put Ben and me on dry land. Mrs. Elf drives everyone back to the little kingdom.
Hooray!
The rescue was a perfect mix of fairy magic and elf skill, declares Mr. Elf. Here's to elf skill, cries Princess Holly, waving her wand.
Hooray!
Sorry. And here's to fairy magic, replies Mrs. Elf. Then she, Mr. Elf and Ben blow their elf horn with a triumphant doot. The end.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.